Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to a Some Assemblage Required video combined with May I Scraplift You. And I am scraplifting the awesome MK gun. And I think that's awesome because it is a Some Assemblage Required video. And so I thought, you know, this is going to be awesome. I will lift her and see what I can do using a bunch of her products out of her shop. So I started out with this Dusty Attic chipboard, which came in the embellishment box for May, I believe. I'm going to say May. And I'm really liking how this looks. And in order to get those out, I just use my X-Acto knife, and they're just held in a couple of places, so you just kind of snip that little area and then they pop out pretty easily once you do it. You might have to flip it over and do it on both sides, unless you can get your X-Acto knife or whatever you like to cut with all the way through. So I am starting out by adding some white gesso to all of these, and I'm just applying it with one of my sponge daubers. I have found this works really well to do it this way. This is really heavy gesso. At least I believe I'm using the heavy gesso. It works great like this because I can just take that sponge off of there and throw it in a cup of water that sits on my desk for this type of stuff, and then it doesn't stay, it doesn't get gooey or anything. I can just wash it out and I can use it again for something different. So that was Art Basics heavy gesso that I was using, and now I am going to use some Shimmerz products. These are Frosty's Buns, which is the light color, and then the other one is called Blue Lagoon. And so I'm really liking the way these are looking. I'm putting a little bit of each on each side of each one of these little swirls. That was a lot of each, you guys. The reason that I am doing that is because I'm not sure which direction I want them to face, and I don't know which if I want them to be up, swishing up or swishing down. So I want to be able to move them in both directions, and rather than having to dig out everything again, I thought I'll just go ahead and do both sides, and that'll take care of it. Now I am also applying a little bit of the Stickles glitter gel in Moon Dust that I have been using for all of these photos of our snow trip to Tahoe, and I want that because it's going to give a little bit of extra sparkle and look kind of like icicles. And I am doing a little bit on each side. Now, because these don't have a lot of surface area in them, I'm not getting a really good coverage, but there is a little bit of sparkle here and there, and that's fine. That's all I really needed. So I'm going to finish that up. And then I'm going to move on to the paper that I'm going to go ahead and use for this layout. This actual piece of paper was given to me by MK, so hey, bonus on that. And then the wood grain there is the flip side of it. She gave it to me when she saw I was working on a bunch of different photos for this trip, and it matched really well. So she was like, hey, I've got a bunch of this. You want a piece? And I thought, well, that is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and use it on this layout. Now in her layout, she has the torn edge that looks a little bit distressed as well. She's got what looks like either a pre-made mixed media or a homemade mixed media piece on the left-hand side of the layout. And so I am going to put something a little bit different over there. She's got a little bit of red in hers, and then I am going to add this piece that has these pine needles with red. And I like the way that looks. It looks a lot better when it's all done. I wasn't 100% sure about it because that's a lot of pattern on pattern, you guys. But it does look good when it's all done. So I think the addition of inking stuff really helps because that kind of tones everything down just a bit and takes it down a little bit, takes it down a notch, so it's not quite so in your face. And then I've got so much stuff going on over this layout that I think it finally comes together how I was expecting once I get all of the stuff on here. Now you will see that throughout this layout I am doing these little subtle nods to MK and everything, so I will point those out as I go. So I am using her distress tool, which is it was a game changer, a complete game changer. I used to hate distressing, but because this one is so large and chunky in your hand, which might not sound like a good thing, but it really is. It makes it really easy to hold on to, even if you have hands that are, get sore or you have arthritis or anything like that, it works really well. The depth of the notches where the paper goes in is great. My other one is so tiny that as you're distressing, it comes out of the notch every single time, it seems like. And there are a lot of blades in there, a lot of little blade sections, so you can, you have a lot to work with. Now I am using these dies. These are from Pink Fresh Studio. They're nesting circle dies. And I am using a piece of packaging from MK's shop. And I've had that in my bin of stuff to use for quite some time. And I love the wood grain that she has on her packaging, so I went ahead and used that up. Used it here, and what I did was I took a Tim Holtz wood grain embossing folder, and I ran them through that when they were done. I apologize, you don't actually see me running it through there because my machine is off to the side. It's too big to lug out and put on my desk, but I am getting some really good wood grain look here. In case you're wondering why I'm putting blue, is I'm trying to move it more back towards the gray in there, and I'm having a hard time with it. And I know I'm adding blue to brown, and that's kind of making it kind of a weird green funky color, but it all works out in the end. I am going to add a little bit of Shimmerz over the top of that as well, some more of that Frosty's Buns, but not over the entirety of the rings. I'm just going to put it in certain places, and so that will bring it back to that kind of gray color that I'm looking for. I am backing my photos and inking up my photo mats just to give some more depth of color and differentiation between the layers. I definitely wanted to add a little bit more red. I like the way that that's looking. And then I'm going to add some more of that wood grain behind the red just to give more definition and depth of color and a lot more layering. I am ripping the edges of my wood grain, and I obviously don't have a wide enough piece to cover or to go behind the entire thing. So I am having to just kind of piece it together behind the photograph. You're not going to know that it's two separate pieces when it's all said and done. Again, distressing those torn edges and inking them up, and I really like how that looks. So here's where I take the Frosty's Buns and I go right back over some of these wooden looking rings, and I like how that looks a lot. So it kind of has like the silvery sheen to it, so it brings it back to kind of a grayish brown. Now I would not have probably added more of the ink that I used, except for the fact that I wanted those rings to be darker than the actual packaging was, and to match closer to what the wood was that is doing that vertical strip and behind my photographs. And now that I have done all of that inking and the layer of the Frosty's Buns, it is much closer, and I'm really happy. It actually looks almost like it matches perfectly on this layout or in the video. Now I'm pulling out a bunch of snowflakes that I created at the retreat I was at. If you've been watching, you probably have heard this already, but for those who haven't, these were created on a Cricut machine for the most part. The largest ones and the ones with the circle out of the center, those were done by some Spellbinders dies that I have had in my stash for ages. So I don't have any links for those that I'm aware of, but they are just Spellbinder dies, and then the other ones were done on a Cricut machine. So I'm playing around with where I want these to sit, and as I'm working on it, I'm realizing that I really want my photos on the right hand side of the page instead of the left hand side, because we are going to be sliding off the page otherwise. So pretty soon here you're going to see me flip the entire thing, which just really means I rotate it. There isn't anything on here that has a directional a directional pattern on it, so that nothing's going to be upside down by just rotating it. So that made it really simple just to rotate the whole thing. It makes me able to move my photos to the right hand side a little bit more, and now we look like we're sliding into the center of the page instead of off of the page. So that makes me pretty happy just being able to do that. I'm going to back one of my largest ring with some white paper. That will be where my journaling is going to go at some point. I don't do my journaling on camera for the most part, but I do usually leave room for it, or I have a plan as to where it goes on the page, even if it doesn't look like there is room. I don't have anything that holds me back from just writing directly on the background paper. It doesn't bother me at all, and so oftentimes that is what I'll do. But in this case, I'm reserving a little bit of space in that little white circle for my journaling. Now, normally it would bother me to have all of those different pattern papers showing behind the circle that I just adhered, and it still does a kind of, but I am lifting MK's layout, and that's what she's got on her layout, and so I'm going to go with it. And I always love the way her layouts look anyway. It's just something that I struggle with. I find it more confusing to my eye that there's multiple patterns like intersecting, and that for whatever reason is, I don't know, doesn't always work for me. So I'm working outside of my comfort zone a little bit here. Okay, I'm liking how this is looking. I did die cut a bunch of pine needles there. If I have the name of the die, I will put them down below in the description box so that you can look those up if those are of interest to you. And same with any of the products. The product list is down below, and those are affiliate links. They do give me a little bit of a kickback if you decide to use them. Okay, I'm liking how this looks. I'm going to tuck all those little pine needles in and go back to finishing up my embellishing that I had started on the other side, but now I'm trying to recreate it after I have rotated everything around. And now I'm playing with where those swooshes are going to go. I also have some acrylic pieces. There's an acrylic snowflake there on the page, right above my hand. And I do have I have one of those. I think actually, maybe I just have one. Anyway, I have one of those, and then I've got two ice skates that are the same. Now they look like they're a teal color here, and that's the color I thought they were, but when I take the backer off of them, they're a much brighter blue than I had anticipated. I still end up using them, and I like the way that they look. They pull in a lighter color of blue, more like the blue that is on the right hand panel there than the teal, and it all works out for the best. It's fine. But it was a little bit of a surprise because I didn't think they were going to be that bright. But I guess when you add they have a brown backer on them, which I could have easily left on there, but by the time I realized that they were light blue, the backer was off and there was no going back. It's nearly impossible to put that backer right back on there where it came from. So I just had to go with it. And I'm playing around with these little swooshes, trying to figure out where I want them. I don't know if I should call them swooshes. They're flourishes or swirls, whatever you want to call them. I'm playing around with where I want them to have them kind of look like they're a little bit natural and not too forced. And I am just continuing to build up the layers of these pine needles with the snowflakes over the top. Now I don't mind that I'm leaving a hole kind of in the middle there. It's going to all get covered by that snowflake, so it's not a big deal. And I don't want it to look too perfect or purposeful, like they're all geometrically like aligned or anything like that. I want them to look a little bit haphazard and natural, and so I'm liking how that's looking. I did punch those or die cut those out of some bluish green paper, out of a couple of bluish green papers, so that they have a little bit of texture to them. I rarely ever use cardstock, so those were definitely not done with cardstock. It was pattern paper that has a pattern on it that has more of a green and then a little bit of a blue involved. And then one was more blue with a little bit of green, and so it kind of gives you a little bit of variation. I'm liking how this is coming together and how it's looking. I have not yet figured out where I'm putting those ice skates, nor have I figured out where that snowflake is going, the acrylic snowflake. And again, those are from MK's shop, as are the little flourish swooshy pieces that I cut earlier. Okay, so I'm thinking these little skates are going to hang down here from the snowflake, and I like the way that is looking so far. I'm just going to let them sit there and marinate in my mind as I figure out this other cluster down here. I do end up having 3 of those acrylic snowflakes, and they are going to get nestled one into each of the cluster areas, which is really good because then I have a little bit of that bright blue in each one of those areas, the unexpected bright blue. While I go ahead and adhere these down, don't forget that there are a bunch of people playing along with May I Scraplift You. The links, or the link to the playlist, is down below so that you can go and check out all of the videos that have been released so far this month for this series. I will also include a link to MK's shop down below and to the products that I used on today's video if they are still available. Now, I do know that the flourish will be available. It came in a box with a bunch of other awesome goodies that I have been using over the course of this month. So, okay, I've got those acrylic pieces down. The acrylic pieces are probably going to go on with some glue dots. I did my first few videos with this month, or for this series of photos, while I was at a retreat, and I didn't have all my glue dots with me, but I'm back home now, and so the glue dots are out. So there is my bright blue, and like I said, much brighter than I thought it was going to be, but it really does match the pine needles on that paper on the right hand side, so it's all good. Now these snowflakes, these these ice skates came with a string, so it looks like the string, you can attach it so it looks like it's hanging from you know, the laces, and that is what I'm playing with here. I know it's a little hard to see on screen, but I am going to double up that string and tuck one end underneath each of the, what would be the tongue of the skate, so it looks like it's coming out from that area, and I'm going to glue it right underneath the skate, and then it's going to be held by the snowflake that is up above it. And I think that looks really super cute. And then I had one more of those pine needles, which I was just looking to tuck in. And then I have this blue piece that says "No Much Fun." So I wanted to tuck that in and have that as my title piece. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions or comments, you can leave those down below, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to hit that thumbs up button, and if you are not already subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe as well. I hope you are enjoying the May I Scraplift You series, because I'll be back tomorrow with another video. See you then. Bye bye.